Good evening and welcome to the City of Woodstock's virtual public planning meeting. Tonight's meeting is an open public meeting as required by the Planning Act. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording of the meeting will also be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the Agendas, Meetings, and Minutes page of the city's website. This meeting is for information and discussion purposes only, and no decisions will be made at this evening. Council will make a decision on these matters at the regular council meeting to be held on Thursday, September 16th at 1:30 p.m. If you wish to address council at that meeting as well, you must submit a delegation form to the City of Woodstock, or the city clerk, no later than 2 p.m. on Tuesday, and a delegation form is available on the city website. Due to the nature of a virtual meeting, the public has been asked to submit a request to speak in advance to allow for pre-meeting tests with the IT department. Those wishing to make a presentation will join the meeting via video conference, while those wishing to provide comments or answer questions only will call into the meeting via telephone. When recognized by the chair to speak, you must provide your name and address for the public record before giving comments. Only the applicant or the people who provide oral or written comments regarding the application are entitled to appeal council's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Please keep your comments to planning matters only and avoid repeating comments that have already been expressed. If you have not provided oral or written comments but wish to receive formal notice of the council's decision on the matter, please contact the clerk's department. The notice will provide further information on appealing the decision. The planner will be asked to present the planning report for each application. The applicant will then be provided an opportunity to make comments, followed by those wishing to speak in favor of the application, and then followed by those wishing to speak in opposition of the application. Prior to proceeding with the first application, does anyone wish to declare a pecuniary interest in any of the items that are on tonight's agenda? Seeing none. I'm sorry, Councillor Accioni, you have a conflict? Or?
A pecuniary interest. Yes, I do.
Pecuniary interest? Okay, thank you.
Item, I guess there is only one.
There is only one item.
Yes.
Thank you. And seeing that, we only do have the one application on the agenda tonight, and it is Planning Report B21398, application for consent, Woodstock General Hospital Trust, 525 Brant Street. And I'm going to call on our senior planner, Andrea Haschler, to go over the application.
Thank you. So the application tonight is for a severance, and it's to create a residential building lot for future development and to retain a parcel for future parkland, which would be transferred to the city in the future. So the subject lands are located at 525 Brant Street, and they would be more noteworthy because they are the former Woodstock Hospital lands, and so likely everyone's familiar with them. I'm just going to share my screen here so we can see what we're talking about. So basically what the subject lands are, the current severance that's being proposed is to sever these lands from the future parkland. And then the applicant has also submitted an application for a zone change, and that is just basically to rezone these two little northern triangles, which are being added to the parkland. They've been added to the parkland, and just basically they just need to rezone so the zoning is consistent with the rest of the parkland, and then it would also allow for facilitate that parkland use in the future. That application has been submitted. It's not what is being considered by council at this point in time. It'll come at a later date. So just tonight, we're just discussing the severed land to be used for future redevelopment. Just to give council a little bit of history, council may recall that there was a severance. I think that actually there's been 2 severances that have gone before council for this area. These lands were previously severed from this southern portion, and that was just an attempt to sever contaminated lands from clean lands. At this point in time, the applicant has indicated to us that records of site condition have been filed on both parcels. They were filed in July and August. So that means that the lands can be redeveloped we're getting closer to the lands being redeveloped. So the application was circulated to a number of agencies. Staff are supportive of the application. It's a fairly straightforward application. The lands are zoned. They were previously zoned to facilitate a future plan of subdivision. At some point in time, once the applicant and the future owner are satisfied that there is no contamination any longer, then the lands will be transferred, and likely council will see applications for a draft plan of subdivision to develop these lands for residential purposes. And then just for clarification, to make so everyone knows, the lands are currently designated low density residential. So that allows for singles, semis, and towns, and low rise apartment buildings. The fact that the lands are, and again, this is not part of the severance, but I know that these are the questions that people want to know the answers to. So basically at this point in time, the lands are zoned for singles, semis, and townhouses, and then the parkland. So staff are supportive of the application. We did receive comments back from a couple of the departments, the Oxford County Public Works Department, as well as the City Engineering Department, and they requested that a number of conditions be included, and those would just be the standard conditions that we generally see with severances. And so in light of our review, we feel that the application is a good use of an underutilized site. It's making use of efficiently using services in the area infrastructure. It will offer a mix of housing in the area, and it's promoting intensification. We also feel that it's compatible and sensitive to the surrounding neighborhood, as it's a form of low density, or it'll facilitate a form of low density residential development, which is in keeping with the surrounding area. Both the severed and retained parcels are in keeping with the zoning requirements as well, aside from those two corners that are going to be rezoned in the future. So in light of that, we would recommend that this application be given favorable consideration.
Thank you, Andrea. Is there any questions of council to Andrea regarding this application? Mark? Councilor Sandberg, sorry. No? Sorry. Councilor Petter?
Yeah, I apologize through Madam Chair. I apologize for missing 3 years on council, but I really don't know where we are on the level of contamination, and if Andrea or Mr. Lang or Mr. Coakley might know what we're waiting for, exactly how that contamination thing is going.
We can probably, when they're, I don't know if Andrea can answer that, but we can definitely ask the applicant and Mr. Coakley when they come on too.
Okay.
That was my recommendation, would be that you speak with, or that Mr. Coakley answer those questions, because he's been working on that for the past few years.
Great, thank you.
So if there are no other questions by councillors, we will move to the applicant. I'm sorry, I did call on you, Councillor Schadenberg, but you didn't respond, so. You're on mute.
Yeah, I just thought of an interesting question from our chair through to our planner. Just curious if there's, and I know that we're looking at this, what looks like a shape of a bit of a tennis racket coming off of Brant Street as future green space. Has there been any designation whatsoever as to what could possibly be on that green space whatsoever? Or will that come back to council at a future time if we're going to designate that as a tribute or memorial to the hospital, or playground for kids or whatever the usage of that green space is going to be.
So through Councillor Talbot to Councillor Schadenberg, I actually am not sure. I know that the zoning reflects an active use parkland as opposed to passive use, but as for any other future plans, I think that if you save that question for Thursday night, perhaps Mr. Connors can answer that.
I think that's where he'd probably be better suited. Thank you. No further questions by council? If not, the applicant, Mr. Lang from Woodstock Hospital, would you like to speak regarding the application, or you're okay with it?
Thank you, Sandy. I'm okay with the application. I defer the technical question to Michael Coakley.
Okay, Michael, do you have a presentation you'd like to give us or talk to us about this application?
Sure. I don't have a formal presentation, but I did want to say that, we've been actively working with the hospital Infrastructure Ontario since 2011 to make the property saleable. So beginning in 2011, we started out helping the hospital with decommissioning and demolition of the buildings. And since then, I've been helping with environmental work and planning applications. So as people may know, we already did the severance for the northeast corner of the site. And that particular portion was sold to Len Rees for future residential development. And now we're working on the remaining portion in the southwest corner that's outside the future park parcel. And that again is intended to be sold to Mr. Rees for residential development.
Okay, sorry, Michael, just to interrupt. I probably should have stated that you are with Infrastructure Ontario as well.
Yes, correct. I'm the applicant working on behalf of the hospital.
Thank you. Did you have anything further?
Just that I am available to answer specific questions about the environmental contamination. I don't know if we want to get into that at this point or not, but if people have, like various councillors do have specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Councillor Petter just rejoined us a few months ago, so he might just, maybe he'll take the Coles note version on it. Councillor Petter?
That's exactly what I was going to ask for, Mr. Coakley, if you could give us the Coles Notes version. I've been out of the loop for a while and I'm not sure where we are with it.
Sure. So there's actually 3 separate record of site conditions submitted. The first record of site condition was for the northeast corner, that portion that's been sold to Len Reeves. So that was a particular kind of risk assessment that was done there. And there are risk management measures associated with that as spelled out under the certificate of property use, as there are for the 2 other remaining portions of the site, i.e. the future park parcel and the parcel we're talking about tonight. So the particular parcel that we're talking about tonight, the risk assessment was what we call a tier 3 risk assessment. And it was done because there are particular contaminants discovered through investigation. And most of those are related to above ground fuel storage tanks that were associated with the former hospital, the main hospital building, as well as there was a laundry. So there was things like tetrachloroethylene discovered and those sorts of things. So as I mentioned, there's a particular certificate of property use which outlines the risk management measures. So there are things like hard cap barriers that are instituted or are going to be in place. There's things like groundwater monitoring that's going to be happening and is happening, and various other things that I could go into detail in, but I'm not going to go into quite as much detail because I know time is limited, but I'm happy to answer if you want to put your questions into writing or whatever and send them my way. Andrea Hashler has my contact details, but just to know that, there are contaminants there that are associated with the former hospital and they're being addressed through the risk management measures. Right now, I just wanted to make a small correction actually to the staff report, because I think it noted that the record of site condition for the park parcel, we actually got that acknowledged by the Ministry of, the MECP back in July 13th of this year. So we do have that record of site condition for that particular parcel. So that's the future park parcel. And we just submitted the record of site condition for the park, for the parcel that we're talking about tonight, back on August 23rd. So we're hopefully if everything goes well, we'll have the record site condition acknowledged by the Ministry of Conservation and Parks, Environment, Conservation and Parks by October or November of this year, and crossing our fingers that that will happen.
Okay, any further questions for Michael? Seeing none, thanks very much, Michael.
Okay.
And we have had no one registered this evening to speak in either favor or against this application. So seeing as we have no further applications on our agenda tonight, I would call for an adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Patter.